Welcome to Diaries of an Entrepreneur, where we uncover the real stories behind the journey, the wins, the losses, and the lessons that shape entrepreneurs and investors just like you. In each episode, we go behind the scenes and we highlight reels to bring you the truth about building, scaling, and living the entrepreneurial life. This is more than just business. This is Diaries of an Entrepreneur. Let's dive in.
I'm Daniella Devine. I'm a third-generation entrepreneur, and I am the newest owner of Peacock Floors. Peacock's got a really great story. My grandmother opened Peacock in 1981 as a product of divorce. The last thing she got in her divorce settlement, well, rather, the only thing she got in her divorce settlement was a semi-truck full of carpet. And it was because my grandmother and my grandfather started flooring retail shops in the city of San Francisco in the 1960s. And by the time they got divorced 37 years later, that's all she had to her name. So she asked my dad to come back from touring in Europe because he was an aspiring rock star at the time and said, hey, look, I just need you to come back for 1 year and help me liquidate the truck. Help me open up a shop and liquidate the truck. So I have a future. And he said, hey, no problem. And we're celebrating our 45th year in December. My grandmother was here into her 80s. I graduated from college in 2008. I came out of UC Davis thinking I got the paper and I'll be able to do all this amazing things. No jobs, recession, no healthcare, no vacation, no benefits. Jobs that were starting at 65K, were offering 30K. And my dad goes, you know, your grandma should retire. I think I've got a spot for you here. And I just thought to myself, oh hell, okay, I need a job. I'm not going back to live with you guys. So I started working here as an admin. Started learning everything from the ground up, sweeping the floors, cleaning the bathrooms. Pretty quickly, my dad put me on my first project, which was a Tenderloin housing hotel. And that was an absolute adventure. It was a $120,000 project. And I made $20,000 on that commission. And I thought to myself, okay, there's something here. I've been working on and off with my dad for almost 15 years now. A couple years ago, we started a brand new division after partnerships with Clark Construction and a mentorship with Bob Nibby of Nibby Brothers. Started working with general contractors, and we really solidified our space as a small flooring contractor specializing in commercial. We're also a local business enterprise here in the city of San Francisco, so we're given a lot of opportunities to work on public projects that serve smaller business owners. So we've really been able to ink our name, and some of our moments of pride and milestones are, long time accounts with Presidio Trust, San Francisco State University, SFO, UCSF. And I really, really hope to continue serving the city and county of San Francisco. My dad grew up here, he's a Reardon boy. I'm just really proud to take this thing into the next generation and grow the business.
I love it. So let's go back to the beginning. What was it like growing up around a family business, and what did that teach you about money and responsibility?
Oh, this is such a good question. My grandmother and, really my grandparents started small businesses in San Francisco in the 1960s. And so my dad grew up with that, and obviously I did too. What it taught me is that burden of responsibility, like the weight of responsibility when you have multiple people to feed and there's no guarantee of income, healthcare. Like holidays were never a thing for my dad, right? And so he actually, I remember this so vividly. He would get so annoyed when we were approaching a holiday because it was a day that he was not able to conduct business. And he had his KPIs down to the day. Yeah. It is like, if I'm losing this much money per day while the shop door is closed. And so it's like Christmas was this whole affair. He's like, oh my God. And we were kids. We were so excited, and my mom was really festive. So we would all just be like, oh, Dad, can you please get with it? But really, it's funny. I was a really ambitious kid. He noticed that. And he changed bedtime stories for me at a very early age. We didn't do bedtime stories of like princesses and, fantasy lands. It was like stories about my grandmother. She had this group of friends, and two of them were real estate baronesses in San Francisco. Wow. And they were from multi-generational real estate families. And one of them was Teddy Bruschi's grandmother. And they'd all get around together and they'd chop shop about real estate in San Francisco. You'd go into my grandmother's house and you'd come into our shop, and in the bookshelves there were old CDs and books of how to get wealthy and how to do your taxes, and just like boxes and boxes of books like this. And so I grew up around a thirst to learn, earn, and work your money. And it really defined my childhood a lot because I was really comfortable talking about money and around money, and most kids my age weren't. And I was curious. So I think I actually ended up making some friends uncomfortable, because I just was a curious kid and I just wanted to talk about the stuff that I knew.
That's so cool. Growing up, where was the turning point that pulled you towards real estate?
I noticed that real estate for my family wasn't necessarily wealth building, it was survival. And so what I mean by that is when you own a long-term business, and this is very, very prevalent in the flooring industry nationwide, flooring dealers are always insecuritized by leasing. And so the mission for my dad and my grandma was always to buy a building because they leased down the street on Bayshore from Caltrans. And they were in a dilapidated building that was falling apart. It was a total liability, but Caltrans just kind of kept them in there, and they hoped to stay in there because they had a footprint on Bayshore Boulevard for 25 years. Now, flooring is one of those things where you Google flooring dealers and you go to the closest one near you. So if you move locations, it can be completely detrimental to your business. So as my family was able to obtain residential homes and buy real estate, the next big thing was buying the building for the business and securitizing the business. So I understood from a very early age, there would be years where he'd be so stressed. I don't know if we're gonna get kicked out this year. I don't know where we're gonna go. I don't know if we have the money for a down payment for another lease. I don't know. And for the first 20 years in their business, they had a really hard time being super profitable. They really took a long time to figure it out. So the lease thing was always a huge area of this could come crumbling down the second we get our eviction notice. Wow. And we just will never know. And so, that interest in security in real estate was more survival. It was more like, how do we securitize our ability to survive? We own. And that's all I really knew at that age.
During our podcast episode, you mentioned your first deal was, let's just say, a nightmare. Can you walk us through that story and what you learned from it?
Oh my gosh, okay. I made a few glaring investor errors, the ones that they tell you not to make in all the mentorships, literally the mentorship we're in, and I didn't follow the rules. An offer came across my desk for a sweet townhome in Bend, Oregon, and it was subject to a 3.25 APR. I was able to take over that interest rate, which is a killer interest rate at the time. Pretty brand new construction, $1 million neighborhood, thinking to myself, my down payment is 8%. Who gets that? I'm not a first-time home buyer. I don't get an FHA, right? First mistake I made, going into a market I wasn't studying and I wasn't familiar with. I love Bend, but I didn't look at it from an investment lens. I became emotional, and that was a huge error. Because what I did the second this opportunity came across my desk was I envisioned what it would do for my family's life and the experiences we could have in Bend. And being able to own a home in the Pacific Northwest, I got emotional, and investing is not emotional. It needs to never be emotional. I emotionally attached myself to that property and I convinced myself to buy it, and it was a mistake. I did not understand that even though it was in $1 million neighborhood, that the rental income I would be able to obtain even from midterm renting, because it had a HOA, so it couldn't be short-term rented, was not gonna be enough to cover the PITI. And I didn't know that the rental market had already reached a high and was coming down. But the biggest thing I didn't know was that I was 2 doors down from a small multifamily that was a juvenile facility for kids getting out of juvenile prison that had addiction issues.
Oh my God.
And so the few midterm rental folks I had that had interest would go and look at the property and go, oh, it's so beautiful, it's great. And then I would never hear from them again. And I had all the marketing channels turned on. I had everything optimized. I had beautiful photos. The place was designed. I mean, it came designed with all this beautiful new furniture. It wasn't a shithole. And it was in a great neighborhood. And I'm going, what is happening? And finally, I started to hemorrhage money. And I thought to myself, something is wrong here. something is not right. I couldn't even long-term rent it. I put it on the market to long-term rent it for $1,500 under the PITI. I was willing to bleed $1,500 a month just to close this thing out and get it stabilized. Finally, I realized something is wrong. I kept communicating with the person that sold it to me, who also happened to be a residential real estate agent. And I was like, I'm doing all the things. What's up with the market? What's going on? What's happening? He talked to me a lot over saturation. He talked to me about a few different things. But ultimately, I put it on the market to lease option it to an investor. I just wanted to get out. I just wanted to stop hemorrhaging money, stop bleeding. And it was that investor that told me that a couple doors down, this facility was in full force. So technically in California, that's a material fact, environmental material fact. But in Oregon, it's not. He didn't have to disclose that to me, but it completely changed my ability to stabilize the asset because I was on a very small court. The neighbors were infiltrated by troubled kids. It's a great organization. Their mission is awesome. That doesn't belong in a tight-knit residential court. It just doesn't. And so the math didn't math. And this particular investor asked me a couple really pointed questions that were hard to hear. She goes, would you live on this block with your young children knowing this facility was there? No. Would an elderly couple live on this block knowing that facility was there? No. Would anyone choose to live on this block knowing that these kids that just came out of juvenile hall and have drug addictions live there? No. So I had to call that agent back. The beauty of sub-twos, and this is why a lot of investors are irresponsible with them, is you could just stop paying the mortgage because it's not in your name. And that is why irresponsible investors wreck this as a tool in their tool belt. For me, I felt very taken advantage of, and especially by a fellow agent who's also in my brokerage. And so I had a curt conversation with him where I said, this is what we're gonna do. I'm 70 grand in the hole on this. I'm bleeding every month. I can't get anyone to rent this damn place. You're gonna take it back. I'm gonna quit claiming it back to you. We're both gonna shake hands. I'm gonna ride off into the sunset now. And I ain't paying your mortgage next month. And he said, I will never forget this. He was like, I'm so sorry. Please have your lawyer contact me with the paperwork. Thank you for being such a professional. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God. He sells it for more money.
Wow.
He makes another commission because I had already paid him a commission.
Yeah.
He got 4 months free mortgage, or actually 6 months free mortgage where I was, I was paying the mortgage. And that just taught me so much. Like, know your market, stick to your market. Don't get emotional. It's not about emotion. The numbers don't lie, but you have to study the numbers. You have to go to the property, y'all. Like, I know you can buy properties remote. Doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
Because you could easily overlook an environmental material fact that could affect a tenancy for a business, can affect your ability to rent your space. And if your space isn't rented, your investment isn't stabilized, which means it's not a good investment.
How were some of these lessons tied into some of these lessons that you experienced with your family here with real estate in San Francisco? And how did the Bay Area market shape your perspective, especially compared to some of these other regions that you invested in?
Well, the Bay Area market is truly unique, much similar to New York, and the tenant laws are incredibly restricted. So I think for me, I came from a place of I was very conservative with my investments because I was feeling like, well, I have more opportunity out of state. It's very, very challenging to invest here to make it math residentially. It's just not gonna work for me here. On top of that, you have the tenant laws, which risk the stabilization of your investment because once you rent your residential home in the Bay Area and many cities and counties, you have no control over your asset. It's not about being a terrible landlord. It's not about treating people unfairly. And it's not about just being a slumlord. It's about the fact that you just put a huge amount of hardworking, money you bled for into an asset that you can't control. You can't even walk your own property. You can't even notify the tenant in the city and county of San Francisco and walk your own property. It's just, your hands are tied. So I felt strangely, and this is probably a false assumption on my part, more secure investing out of state. Now in the markets that I studied and I know, I don't have the issue that I had in Bend. Like, I'm never gonna get emotional again about a property. You know, in my mind, and you know, since I've become a commercial broker, I think about real estate in a completely different way than when I was just an investor. Now I trade paper. All I do is trade paper. That is it. I trade paper and I make sure the pieces on the monopoly board are strong, secure structures and that they have good people in them, businesses or people. That is it. That's my only concern. And so if those things don't math, it's off the table.
At some point, you made the leap from residential into commercial. Was this what drove the shift, or was there something else that drove the shift?
This was totally what drove the shift. You know, I had midterm rental, the one midterm renter I was able to get in there, he lied about the number of animals that were in there. The animals destroyed the flooring. He tried to make flooring repairs, which he didn't know I owned a flooring company, so he didn't know I would know to the extent of the damage that he caused, right? And the monetary, you know, damage that you get what I'm trying to say. But I learned super quickly. I know businesses. I know industrial assets. I know commercial tenants because I grew up as a commercial tenant with my family business. And now we have an industrial asset and we have a tenant and I've been managing this facility in that tenancy. So I started to go, you know, I like triple net. I like the protection of triple nets. I can invest in California in commercial facilities with the protection of triple net leases. I can do what I've always done, which is be an owner-operator, rent to other owner-operators, and own that space and feel so good about it instead of going, oh God, is Mary gonna complain about the soft spot in the wood substrate in the bathroom? Oh no, like the snow's coming, are the pipes gonna burst? Like, do those things happen in other areas in commercial facilities? Of course they do, but the lease structures protect the landlord from having to personally deal with them.
100%.
So I'm mitigate risk.
Yeah.
And at heart, I'm conservative.
Yeah.
So to me, this just felt like it made way more sense for me.
Well, you partnered with Melissa Jackson and her team. Tell us about that team and how it's shaping your career.
Melissa is a force to be reckoned with, and that's kind of putting it lightly. But she's really taught me how to be an empathetic and aggressive leader. And I think in business before, I definitely had some hesitancy. I typically have worked in industries that are dominated by older men, and it's been really challenging for me to be seen as an authority, somebody that is technically proficient and competent and able to trade paper or do huge construction deals, somebody that can bear the burden of that responsibility. And Melissa's really taught me how to shift that. She is a retail superstar in Idaho and is building a national retail team under the eXp commercial umbrella. And so she's completely changed the way that I think about prospecting, that I approach clients, the way in which every time you approach one prospect, you need to approach them with 3 different business opportunities in mind. The way that you can play Tetris with retailers and retail assets and national tenants and franchisee tenants and developers, and the way that you really can she does this like matrix thing. She's like, can do this. And I'm like, I need the leaderboard. Where are the magnets?
Yeah.
Like, show me where you're going here.
Yeah.
And so it's expanded my mind. And before that, when I was in commercial real estate, the whole attitude was, brokers are starving. You're lucky to be doing anything. And now the attitude is, I'm batting away business. It's a total mindset shift, but it's also a complete dedication to the craft and to the education. She's developed SOPs that have helped us navigate the intricacies of commercial real estate with grace and accountability. Because, you know, I actually realized before I used to think it was so hard to get listings. Now I understand it's not. It's really hard to move listings. It's hard to close listings and transactions in commercial. So huge mindset shift, huge deviation for me, big leap of faith, and big reward that I made that leap of faith for sure.
You know, you said before, not every deal is worth doing. What does an ethical deal look like for you?
It has to really serve your needs. Don't do it just because you want to do a deal. Does it serve your business's needs? Does it serve your portfolio's needs? Are you making the right cash on cash return? Like, this is the thing, right? Establish your freaking buy box and commit. And committing is very, very challenging for investors because it's a shiny object. For novice investors, when you start to talk to really experienced investors, They're very clear cut on what they're doing, during which market cycle, and why. They don't commit to one asset class forever. They go, nope, only doing multifamily right now. This is why. Nope, only doing retail right now. This is why. They know, they study and they breathe and they live the economic marketplace and the numbers. And a lot of novice investors, they look at the numbers of that specific asset and they don't study the overall market, and they lose a huge amount of leverage and momentum and the future and the macro perspective of that investment. An ethical transaction looks like, I know what you need and I'm only putting on your plate what you want to eat. I'm not going, well, you really should look at this. No, you don't want to look at it. I know what you need. Let me find it. And if I can't, I can't. I'm not a fucking magician. You know what I mean?
Well, let's talk about something unique. While building your real estate career, you also decided to take over your family flooring business. And we're in the warehouse right now, and it's a really amazing space. What made you step into that role?
I actually had the building for lease. I was trying to help my dad lease it out. He was getting ready to wrap his career up. 50 years in flooring, and he's ready to retire.
Incredible.
And because he really ran his business as a solopreneur and owner-operator, there weren't people, systems, or processes, and it was going to be too challenging for him to sell it as a package business on market. So I had the building for lease, and I knew that this space was going to be challenging to backfill because the industrial market in San Francisco had gone soft. It's a little bit weird of a layout, and it's just a little bit challenging to backfill a space of this size for a single tenant. We had it on market for a couple months. We had interest from somebody, and this young woman actually had previously bought a flooring company about 2 hours north and wanted to expand into San Francisco. This was going to be a great opportunity for her, and she offered to buy the business as well. And I had no interest at the time. This was just January of this year. I'm going, great. We close the deal. You get your business spot. Like, hallelujah, this is amazing. And we really started working through it. My dad and I, we are each other's consigliaries. And so we never make any big decisions without really working through every single thing. So he's working through her LOI with me, and we're going through all these different things. And he goes, have you really thought about, how you're gonna feel if we sell to her? And I said, what do you mean?
So it started getting emotional a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? He's like, well, I'd hate to sell it out from under you after all the work you've done here. And I was like, oh God. I start spiraling because I'm already looking at businesses to buy, and I'm showing him what I'm looking at. And I will never forget, he goes, you're looking at a car wash for $2.5 fucking million that only makes 200 grand, and I'm willing to sell you my business for 500 grand and it does 450 grand? What's wrong with you? And he's talked to me like this since I was a kid, by the way, just very straight. And I was like, damn it, I have to consider this, and I have to do it now because this woman wants this and she wants it now. So I approached my partners because I really didn't want to do it by myself. I didn't want him to buy his job, right? I wanted to buy something that I could build. I have 3 super young kids. I didn't want to be chained to this place. Before, when I worked here, I was chained here, man. Got very sick, had a miscarriage. It was really tough. And I didn't want to replicate that for my family, for my husband especially. So I talked to my partners about it, and I was like, I know we're looking at businesses, I don't know, we should look at this. I'm not committed to it, we just should look at it. And they're like, what? Are you stupid? You're the only person that doesn't want to buy your family's business. What's wrong with you? We're buying this. And I was like, yeah, but it's so hard, and you're gonna hate it, and flooring's tough, and it's antiquated, and the installers, the problems with they were just like, stop trying to talk us out of this. You are the problem. My partner Chris goes, everything you just said can be solved for. And they had to keep telling me that. And I finally, 7 months later, we're closing in a week, and I believe them.
Amazing.
So, because we're solving those problems in real time, and I'm going, you know what? I needed the right people, and I found them.
What were some of the challenges of transitioning the leadership onto you?
Everything is a challenge.
Top 3.
Oh my gosh, top 3. Everything is on paper and different places in this 11,000 square foot warehouse, and most of the information is no longer valid. So we're working back through, well, how do you get into this bank account? And what is this bank account for? And is this bank account necessary? And oh, well, this has this 5 security layers, but I don't have the key to get into the thing. And I'm like, well, who makes the key? Oh, well, you have to special order it. Oh, well, you know, I mean, this place was a sea of pallets 2 months ago. You could barely navigate a forklift around in here. I had to hire an industry vet general manager, and I had to trust him. And that was really hard. And I had to make my dad train him. That was really hard. Because essentially what we're doing is go learn his job the way he does it, and then we're gonna change everything. It has been mentally taxing, never been more exhausted. I've never had to be as thoughtful because I took a man out of an incredible job with a business that does dwarf SARS and brought him here, and now I have to perform. So I protect him. So I have a level of responsibility now that I never had. Not to mention a $18,000 a month lease payment.
That's a big one. Yeah. How are you thinking about strategic partnerships to scale this business and still trying to grow your real estate company?
The thing that is most solopreneurs are, they suffer with this idea that they can't grow. And it's because they don't really have a business, they have a job. So they go, I can't afford to hire. And it's because they're taking all that net profit and it's what they live on, right? I'm not gonna take any money from this company for minimum a year. Everything's gonna go back in the company, which means I have to work 2 jobs because I have to close commercial deals so I can feed my family. And I have to make sure that this business is profitable enough to keep investing back into people and systems and processes so that, you know, when we are able to draw money from it, it's because we've tripled the gross revenue of this business. So for me, I used to think about this for years. How do I find the right client? I didn't want to do Facebook ads, not really hitting the right client. This business is a very weird niche. We're non-union, but we're commercial. So we can't advertise the way residential flooring shops do. So how do I find the people that I want to contract with? They're procurement officers, they're facilities managers. How do I find them? And it takes years sometimes to break into these accounts because they have their guy. So my partners and I, we're reverse engineering our way there, and we are prospecting like investors and like commercial brokers. We're leaning on a CRM. We're creating databases and lists. We're going direct to seller because I don't want to deal with the GC necessarily. I do plenty of projects with a GC, but the most advantage I have is if I have control and a direct to building owner relationship, right? I want the woman, I want the real estate baroness in San Francisco to want to lean on Peacock Floors as her flooring provider. So I have to find those people. And so I market to them the same way that I would market to them as a commercial broker. Emails, text, cold calls, mailers, events, networking. And I establish myself as not only somebody that can help you with your commercial facility, can talk to you as a sophisticated investor, can talk to you about your business, your life as an entrepreneur, but more so, I've got a service to provide you. How many times have we asked one another, do you have somebody, do you have a tax guy? Do you have a strategist? Do you have a so-and-so? Well, now I'm a flooring guy. I'm a broker that's a flooring guy. So all of my other commercial brokers in the Bay Area have been going, hey, you have a client that has a flooring need? I'm your girl. I'm that service provider. You can trust me. You know, and that is how I'm going to grow this company. That is how we are going to grow this company.
So do you see this flooring company as just a business, or is this part of a bigger investment play? Considering it's your family business, 50 years.
Yeah.
Is there another 50 years? What?
I think there's definitely another 50 years.
Love it.
I think we hired, you know, this is super interesting. The GM that we hired, one of the reasons that he came here was because he built out the last business he was at for a decade, and they never offered him a slice. And they never offered him to become an executive. The beautiful part about looking at a business like this with the eyes of an investor is knowing, I don't want the watermelon. I know what it's like to have the watermelon in this place. I've laid on that ground crying my eyes out, not knowing if I was gonna be able to perform or if I was gonna be able to come up with capital or get bonded or whatever it was. Like, I don't want that. I want this guy to show me he can do it, and I want to give him a piece, and I want him to help me build a bigger company. I've already got other flooring store owners coming to us from different parts of California wanting to sell to us. Good. I want to build the kind of team that we can take down other flooring stores and build something real with my company's history as the foundation of that. I don't need that watermelon.
Yeah.
You know, I love doing deals. I love looking at businesses from the outside as like a macro strategist. I don't get to buy this. And I always say, like, don't think you're gonna buy a business and go buy a Bugatti. Like, I'm not gonna go buy a Birkin. I don't get to go buy a Bugatti. I'm not gonna go buy shit. I'm gonna put everything back into this business and into the people that work here, and I'm gonna watch it grow. And then I'll be able to come in and take something that is actually meaningful, you know, and support something that's meaningful.
What a story. I'd love to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial experience in all of this from hey, like I've gone through this and I want to help others, because folks who are watching are probably starting out and are learning as they are building their own business. What advice would you give to them, especially those who are starting in commercial real estate?
Inch your way forward and really commit to learning like economic markets and market cycles, because they affect business, small business, if you want to buy a business, and they affect commercial real estate. I hated it when Pace told us to pick 2 or 3 markets. Like, no one's gonna do that. But the really successful people did, and they were right.
Yeah.
Pick 1 to 3 markets.
Yeah.
Commit and watch what's happening on LoopNet, on Crexy. Follow up with brokers and ask them, hey, I saw you just sold that. What did it trade for? You know, get in there and talk to brokers. It's hard to get some of their attention. Not all of us are assholes, I promise. But you know, some of us do just love real estate and want to talk deals. And it's your job to become a student of your market. That's your job. And it's also your job, you're not gonna like this, but I'm gonna say it. It's your job to make sure you have enough active income to support anything that could happen with your asset. You could use OPM and other people's money until kingdom freaking comes. But it's gonna come a day, usually way faster than you think, where you're gonna become over-leveraged. And you're gonna become over-leveraged with other people's money. And you're gonna ruin your reputation, and you're gonna sink the fucking ship. And that's not okay. So if you want to play with the big boys, you gotta be a big boy. And you have to have accountability for what you're doing in your life.
Yeah.
Build your active income. Add a side hustle. Get in there. Learn your market. Commit to economic cycles and education and how commercial real estate works, because it's just numbers. That's it. And just tread through the water and go. You know?
Take a step.
Take a step. Do not recklessly fail forward. You will go broke.
So you're managing multiple ventures. You've got a business, you've got a brokerage career, and a family life. We've talked about balance in the past, but I think a lot of people, when I ask about, well, how do you balance it all? They're like, there is no balance. How do you feel about running multiple ventures and running a household? And what sort of impact and what is your why in all of this?
Oh, my why is options. That's all I want for my family, is to provide them options. I was the first person in my family to go to college and get a degree and get a master's degree, and it was so important to my dad. It was like, that's my only job in life, is since I was like literally 3. Your only job in life is to get a piece of paper, because then he thought I'd have options, right? Well, look where I ended back up. You know, I now know that a piece of paper doesn't equate to options, but financial fortitude, flexibility, and education does. It's not necessarily institutional education. So I want my children to be resourceful, to be able to do things physically with their hands, and to be able to use their mind. And I want to create the options that will allow them to do those things. That's it. Don't want a fancy car, don't want a fancy house, don't want Botox, don't want to dye my hair. I'm getting old. But I just freaking want them to be capable humans, kind humans, and have options. Balance right now is challenging for me because I look at life in phases. Right now I'm build, right? I'm build myself out of, okay? Right now it sucks. But, you know, I time block my day. So it's like, hey, I have to get up at 5 in the morning because between 5 and 6:30, I handle the most pressing items of the day. Then it's school time. I drop my kids off. That was my biggest thing. I only want to drop up, have the luxury to not work 9 to 5 so I can drop off and pick up my kids at reasonable hours and be present. So I do the whole thing, park the car, we walk to school, we go to get cafeteria and get a little breakfast, and hang out and watch them play with their kids, talk to the other parents, get involved. I volunteer at the school. And in the evenings, it's them. It's their soccer, it's their homework, it's reading books, it's being present, it's playing. And there are days where I don't want to do any of it. And I do my best. It doesn't look perfect. I actually was chat GPTing last night. How can I, at these ages for my kids, how can I be better? What do they need from me? Like, what activities are they gonna remember? What's gonna be more meaningful? Because I'm so stretched. You know, if my life still looks like this 3 years from now, I failed. I'm not gonna fail. So
no
I
option.
have to.
Yeah, there's no option.
I have to build myself out of this, or all of it will have been for naught. I don't want to be retired. I love working, but I want to go, we're going to the beach today, picking you up at 1, dirt bikes are in the back, let's go to Hollister. Like, I already have such a massive level of flexibility in my life. I can't say no. I can't say no to new deals. I can't say no to new clients. I can't say no to new business. I can't say no to the next deal. And I have to lean on that ability to say no, because if I continue to say yes to everything, that's the imbalance. The imbalance is a drug for high performers we always say yes and we always pile on. And right now, because I'm being very, very careful with my time, but it doesn't look perfect. And I also am holding myself accountable to 3 years from now, it must look different. It doesn't look like retirement, but it must look different. I must be in a place where I'm more financially secure and I can spend more time with my children. Because if not, like, why am I suffering like this? You know, there's no purpose to suffer if the point is just to suffer forever. It makes no sense.
Yeah, agreed. Well, this has been incredible, Daniella. Hearing your story is super inspiring, and I hope a lot of people find inspiration from, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think maybe just add my socials and that's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But I just appreciate your guys' support so much. Like,
absolutely.
Definitely a little scared.
That's good.
Wow, what an amazing experience that was with Daniella Devine at Peacock Flooring. So cool to see this intergenerational family-based business in San Francisco taking it to the next generation. If this really resonates with you guys, be sure to click the subscribe button below, because we're going to be cranking out so many more of these videos. The series is called Diaries of an Entrepreneur. See you on the next one.